the Mindful of You podcast. This is our August bonus episode, Peacemakers Needed. So I've been really excited to talk to you about this concept and this talk that was given by Russel M Nelson in the General Conference for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He is the prophet and president of our church, of our faith at this time. And he delivered this message in the most recent General Conference. And it resonated with a lot of people, I think for good reason. So I'm not sure how much more I can add to this that hasn't already been said by the prophet himself. But as I was studying the talk, there were a few things that I thought I could help us understand and implement some of the things he was talking about here. So basically, in this talk, he goes over the ways in which our world is becoming a little bit more contentious and less full of love, of peace, and of peacemaking. And this is the summary that they put at the top of the talk, or maybe not summary, but kind of message that he's wanting us to walk away with, which is contention is a choice, peacemaking is a choice. You have your agency to choose contention or reconciliation. I urge you to choose to be a peacemaker now and always. So basically, this talk addresses a lot of the ways in which this world and we as members of the church and not have become more contentious in the way that we speak, in the way that we talk to and address others. And he says here, my dear brothers and sisters, how we treat each other really matters. How we speak to and about others at home, at church, and online really matters. Today, I am asking us to interact with others in a higher, holier way. Please listen carefully. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report or praiseworthy that we can say about another person, whether to his face or behind her back, that should be our standard of communication. So this, to me, is a lot easier said than done. There are a lot of things in the world right now that we can be angry about, that we can be frustrated with other people about. And it's natural and normal for that to be your knee-jerk reaction. You know, it says here, if a friend on social media has strong political or social views that violate everything you believe in, an angry, cutting retort by you will not help. While I completely agree with this statement, I also think the natural reaction of anger is somewhat normal. Some would call it the natural man. You know, if you see something that hurts you or you feel like is somehow attacking you, it makes sense that you're angry. So what I wanted to talk about is basically not necessarily the actions we need to take to become peacemakers, but what we need to think and how we need to feel to become peacemakers. So in previous episodes, back when I was doing this a couple years ago, I'm sure I've talked a little bit about the thought model, the coaching model that I was taught through Jody Moore when I was doing her coaching program. This model has an acronym that's CTFAR, which lead to actions, which lead to results. So basically, we have a thought about circumstances. Those thoughts create our feelings. Those feelings create our actions. And then our actions create our results. I think a lot of what Russel M Nelson addresses in this talk is the action portion. So basically, and probably a bit of the feeling portion. So what I wanted to talk about here is the thoughts portion. It is my belief that basically all of our feelings are created by what we think. I know that feels like a very broad statement, and your knee-jerk reaction might be like, whoa, no, it's not. I'm not saying we can always control everything we think, or that there are certain feelings that are bad or that we should never feel. But I do think our feelings start with what we think about a situation. Usually, feelings don't just come up out of nowhere for the most part. There's usually some sort of thought tied to that feeling. So, with that, I kind of filled in the model with a situation that might come up with what Russel M Nelson is talking about here in this talk. So, I kept it really general. So, my circumstance here is someone's opinion. Notice I didn't put in someone's stupid opinion or someone's uneducated opinion or something like that. Just someone's opinion. I kept it as neutral as I possibly could. If I was getting more specific, I would put in the exact words that they used to express their opinion while not adding any of my own embellishments to it. And that would be our circumstance. And then I put that the thought that one may have towards this person's opinion or towards this person because of their opinion, the thought here is they are so selfish. And then the feeling that that could create could be anger. So we always want to choose just one thought and one feeling. The actions that you then take from anger could be to lash out, respond to their comments negatively, give them the silent treatment, argue with them, find proof of how wrong they are. And then your result here is always tied back to your thought. So the result would be that you or I are being selfish by not being willing to see another point of view. This is an example of what maybe the natural man's response would be. Now, I think our natural reaction to maybe talks like this, or when we learn something that we quote unquote should be doing, would be to start in the A line, to start in the action line. So basically we decide, instead of lashing out or responding negatively, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to respond with kindness, or I'm going to pray for them, or whatever it may be. But if our thoughts and our feelings remain the same, then the actions we take can become disingenuous. So even if we think we're being nice to them or attempting to be nice to them, that's a great step. Like, I'm not saying that that should go unnoticed or be bad, but it might come off as fake or disingenuous, and you still don't feel that loving feeling. So what I would rather we do is start with the T line, which is the thought line. Then that will change our feeling and therefore make it easier to create positive actions. Plus, they will have that good feeling behind them and give us those warm and fuzzy feel goods in our heart. I've come up with 5 thoughts that I think help me to be a peacemaker. I tried to come up with as many different things as I could so that they can be applied to your specific situation, because I know every situation is different. So as I talk about these thoughts, I want you to think of either a contentious moment you've recently had or a contentious relationship you have, and then think of a specific contention point within that relationship. So if you're choosing your marriage, I want you to think about the last time you had contention in your marriage. Or if you're choosing like a friend online, that person who's constantly posting things you disagree with, I want you to think of the last time they posted something you disagreed with and how it made you feel. And I want you to try on some of these thoughts. They're not all going to stick. That's the thing with thought work, is some of it you're going to be like, no, I can't think that. I don't believe it. So Adjust these thoughts as needed and try to get yourself to a more neutral space. We're not going to jump straight from being angry or being really frustrated with somebody to being like, oh my gosh, I love you. It's really difficult to jump straight from one point to the other. I just want you to take some time and notice where you're at and consider these thoughts as potential options. So the first thought I came up with is everyone is doing the best they can. What if this was true? What if everybody is actually doing their best? Your initial thought might be like, yeah, I think I agree with that. I think everybody's doing their best. Or it might be like, no, this person's definitely not doing their best. I promise they could do better. But I just want you to think about what if it was true, not just on a surface level of, oh, of course, everybody's doing their best, but truly you believed everybody is doing the best they can. How would that change how you interact with others? I think maybe you wouldn't be as quick to judge. Maybe you wouldn't be as quick to assume. And the emotion I put that this could potentially spark would be compassion. Because if you truly believe that the other person is doing their best, then you can feel compassion for them because guess what? All you're doing is your best too, and you're not perfect either. The second thought I put here that you can try on is, I must not have all the pieces to this puzzle. If somebody says something that you find offensive or that you disagree with, I want you to consider that maybe you don't know their whole backstory. Maybe you don't know all the articles they've read or all the things they've seen on Facebook, or you don't know their trauma. You don't know their religious affiliations, or maybe you don't know what's hurt them. If you don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, you can't come to a conclusion about this person, such as they're being selfish, because if you don't have all the pieces, then there's no conclusion to draw. So the emotion I put that this could spark would be curiosity, because you can start to think about, what are the possibilities? Is it possible that they're not trying to be selfish or that they're not being selfish? Is it possible that in their heads, this is the most selfless course of action or the most selfless opinion they could have? Is it possible that they could be more educated on the subject than I am? Again, some of these your mind is going to immediately reject. You're going to be like, oh, no, I promise I know more about this than they do. And okay, that's fine. That's fine. But I must not have all the pieces to this puzzle. Curiosity. Thought 3, I also have a sparking curiosity. And guys, curiosity is a great place to start when you're in contention. Because it's not a straight jump to love or to even compassion, but curiosity can lead you to those emotions or lead you to new thoughts that can create those emotions. And curiosity feels a whole lot better than anger. So this next thought 3 says, maybe there's more gray area than I thought there was. Now, even if this person has the most absolute extremist idea, if you allow yourself to believe that there's more gray area, you allow yourself to get closer, at least, to where they're at. So you can see maybe how they could draw that conclusion if there's more gray, murky area in the middle. And it can help you notice if you're being extremist, if you're saying my way or the highway. Because if there's more gray area, perhaps there's some things in the middle or circumstances or people or situations that you may not have considered. Thought 4 is a question. Now, usually you're not supposed to put questions in the thought line, but I did because I'm a cheater. And this question is, in what ways am I wrong? Now, I talk a lot on this podcast about shame. So in no way am I trying to get you to use this thought to lead yourself to shame, but usually where there's contention, there's pride. And pride is just as toxic as shame is. And so usually you're not going to jump straight from pride into shame. If there's pride, there's a few steps along the way down. So I don't think this question would cause you shame, but if it is, then don't use this thought. Use something else. But in what ways am I wrong? I want you to get as like nitpicky as possible. Like say that your opinion is as basic as the sky is blue. Research ways the sky isn't blue. Are there places that the sky's not blue? Are there times of day that the sky isn't blue? Are there people who are colorblind so they don't see the sky as blue when you're looking at it and you're like, hey, that's blue? Get as ridiculous as you can. And then you'll probably stumble upon some legit things of like, oh, I hadn't thought about it like that before. And so this can spark curiosity, but I also put that it could spark humility. Because if you're willing to admit that in some ways you might be wrong, or in some ways someone else can be right, all of a sudden you're not as prideful because it's like, hey, I'm not the end all be all of information on this matter. So this is my last thought. I really like this one. It's a little bit longer, but it says, it's possible they are trying to solve the same problem I am, but in a different way. So if you believe that it's possible that whoever you're working with or whoever you're talking to is also trying to solve the same problem you are, but in a different way, all of a sudden it can be you guys versus the problem rather than you guys versus each other. So like, this can be a really positive mindset in marriage or even in politics. It'd be awesome if politicians could be like, hey, we both see the problem. How can we solve this together? It doesn't always happen. But that doesn't mean we can't create those dynamics where possible in our friendships, in our families, and in our partnerships. For example, like sometimes my husband and I view issues differently, or he might not even see something as an issue that I see as an issue. And so it's possible that like we're trying for the same goal. We both want each other to be happy, but we're going at it in different ways. But then instead of my thought being like, oh, he's being selfish or whatever, if I can see that he's also trying just in a different way, then my new thought can be, oh, he wants me to be happy. We're both going for that. And that feels a whole lot better than he's being selfish. Another thing that happens when we're able to spark things like compassion, curiosity, humility, relatability, all of a sudden, our minds are a lot sharper. They're a lot clearer. When we're in contention, we're not thinking straight. We're not thinking straight at all. Something else I wanted to point out is that Jesus Christ loves all of us. And I think that's why he could treat everybody with compassion and kindness, and more compassion and kindness than in the world's terms any of us deserve. Because, in the world's terms, you'd start to keep score and keep a tally of how many things we've done wrong and how many things he has never done wrong, and the fact that he suffered for us. And because he loves all of us, it would be his natural instinct to treat us with compassion and kindness. So the number one feeling we want to create is love. Now, sometimes we can't jump straight from hate to love or from disdain to love. So we start with things like curiosity or humility or compassion. But if eventually we can get to that pure love of Jesus Christ, that's what's going to allow us to be peacemakers. So if where you feel like you're at right now is starting in the action line of just, checking the boxes, or at least not or biting your tongue if you want to say an angry retort to somebody, do it. That's great. Like, that's a great place to start. What I'm trying to help you reframe here is that peacemaking becomes a lot easier when our feelings match our actions. If my feeling is anger and I'm trying to force my actions to be kind, it's really hard. But if I can get my feeling to love or to compassion, the actions feel more natural. So that's what I'm trying to encourage you to see here. So I would really encourage you to read the full talk by President Nelson. He did a wonderful job. I think he's calling us to repentance and to take a look in our hearts and see what feelings we have towards other people and where can we start to love rather than hate. And so I have linked his talk in the show notes. I've also linked a website to learn more about my faith in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that you can look at as well. But yeah, I want you guys to know that I think what he spoke here is true, and it's so important in our current world that we have more people who are trying to be kind and trying to create peace. It's really easy to justify your anger and to be that person that's angry, that's hurt. And you might get more, I'm going to sound like older than I am here, but you might get more likes or, retweets or whatever by being angry. But you'll feel a whole lot better by showing compassion and showing love and thinking before you speak. And so I really encourage you to take a look at your close relationships, take a look at your online presence, basically anywhere that you could be representing Jesus Christ, and do your best to implement love and the concepts taught here in this talk. So anyway, I really appreciate all of you. I'm so grateful for a living day prophet and for his revelation and being able to teach us about these things. And I'm not perfect, so I don't expect that out of any of you. There are times where I react with anger. There are times where I'm frustrated. There are times where I gossip. There are times where I hate. But I'm striving to be better. And I know that can start inside my head. So that's why I try to share these things I've learned with all of you. So anyway, that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will chat with you guys on Wednesday. Bye-bye.